So, welcome everyone to the next episode of Art Side of Life, and I'm super happy to have Greg here. Hello.
Hey, hi. It's nice to meet you, Eva, and anyone else who's watching or listening.
Yeah, so we have both, right?
Happy to
Yeah,
be here.
watching and listening. Yeah. So, thank you so much again for joining us and sharing your artistic journey. And I would like to start, as usual, with a little bit of the introduction of yourself. And if you can share your specialty, like while people know, like, oh, this is you, and, like your specialty in a work area.
My specialty. Wow. Okay. Let's see. So my name is Greg Gunn, and I'm a guy from Los Angeles, California. It's where I was raised, and I grew up here.
Yeah.
And I love to draw. I've been kind of doodling, I guess you'd call it, my entire life, which led me down a path of music and creativity in general, and ultimately landed me kind of like directing and animating commercials for a long time. And I guess sort of my real passion underneath all that kind of stuff is still drawing and illustration. And you asked about a specialty.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
I
like,
don't know.
would you call yourself like I'm an illustrator or I'm art director or like that specialty? You are like, okay, this is the
Hmm.
passion, or you can't
Um,
separate it.
no, I mean that's a great question. I have trouble like committing. So yeah, I mean I tend to say yeah, I'm an illustrator or designer that knows how to animate, and I'll kind of like boop, add that on onto the
It
end.
just moves. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think my emphasis and my interest and passion, I guess, would be on illustration and graphic design.
Yeah. And so, how was it for you then to decide, at the beginning when you were thinking, like, okay, should I go study this or study that? And you knew that you like to draw and maybe the images are moving, but how was it for you to decide on education or which path to take when you were like younger?
Yeah, that's so totally by accident and not my plan at all. That's how I decided. I like let it happen to me. Um, no, so the story goes I was in an emo band in the early 2000s.
Sure. Like
And
everyone, yeah.
yeah,
No, I'm
yeah,
kidding.
like the hairdos alone. Oh my God. Um, so we were playing shows here in LA and kind of outside LA, and the band was about to go on tour, but I had applied to art school as a backup just in case the whole like rock star thing did not work out. Um, and before the band went on tour, I got an acceptance letter to Otis College of Art and Design, and I had to make a decision. Like right then, do I go tour and go do this, or is it time for a change?
Yeah.
And I opted to go to art school. So I set out to go to Otis, and I didn't really have a plan at all. I was like, yeah, art's cool. Guess I'll do that. And and so I went through their foundation program, which is like, okay, back to basics. Let's teach you how to like, the ideas behind color and basic design and life drawing and perspective, all those kinds of things. And you got to take a few electives. And before then, leading up to that, like to buy musical equipment, I like taught myself how to code websites, and then I kind of got into design, and I would actually like design rave flyers, like those really bad like 3D extruded text rave flyers from the late 90s. Yeah, I would make those for
They
like
were
50
very
bucks.
popular, right? Yeah. At the
At the
time.
time,
Yeah,
yeah, they were
right?
awesome. I like to think, I'm like, not bad. But looking back, I'm like, wow, okay. But that afforded me, the musical gear and things I wanted. Anyway, so by the time I got to Otis and I had to decide on a major, initially I was like, cool, graphic design, there it is. And they have this kind of program called Foundation Forward where it's like all the freshmen meet up,
Yeah.
and then all the different departments kind of pitch their department to you. So there's like fashion design, graphic design, illustrator, all this kind of stuff. And there was one called digital media, which was essentially a blanket term for motion graphics. So it's
Okay.
like graphic design in motion. And I saw that and my eyes exploded. And I was like, what is this?
Like, that's
It's like
possible.
graphic design. Yeah, but better, right?
Yeah.
Like so much more exciting. So I opted to go with that, and that's how I spent the first part of my creative education,
Yeah.
motion graphics.
And was it also kind of difficult, or in the way, like when you are talking with your parents or people before you go to art school, was someone questioning the artistic career that is not like a real job, or was it always like, okay, this is normal kind of career and it's totally accepted in my kind of circle of friends or family members?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was very fortunate and privileged enough, I think, to have a lot of support from my family and my friends. Though I did have to take out a whole lot of student loans to pay for all this. It was never, I never had to fight that fight of being like, I want to be an artist.
Yeah.
I don't think my parents understand what I do to this day still, like that. They have no concept of what that means. Um, and I've done a very poor job of explaining it, but they've graced me with that encouragement, and they're like, do you do you, and you find what works for you, and if you're able to make a living and doing that, then fantastic. But my mom will casually be like, "Oh, so and so's son, he's studying medicine." I'm like, "Okay, all right, all right." So
Like,
there's
he's
that like
taking it
passive
seriously. Yeah.
aggressive kind of encouragement too. But no, I pretty much had support, which was wonderful growing up.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because then you can see the options like, okay, I can live like this or I can work in this way. And so, how was it for you then to find like first jobs, or did you start doing some small things when you were already in school or right after school, or how was that transition?
Yeah, I had a very weird transition. A right place, right time, worked my butt off kind of situation, I like to call it.
Like inspiration
So
need to find you working, yeah, and all of that opportunities.
yeah, right, exactly. So when we graduated, it was 2006, which meant YouTube was about a year old. So we were making, I say we, because like my friends and I in school, we were making a bunch of short films, like animated stuff, and we like shoot stuff on cameras on a mini DV tape. Actually, I'm that old. I'm a dinosaur.
Like, what is
Um,
that?
yeah, it's literally like it's like a video cassette. It's like a VHS, but like this big,
Yeah, yeah,
pre-digital.
yeah.
Uh, right, get the picture.
Yes, yeah, but it's
Old.
good for to to explain to people who never saw it or never heard about it before, like especially the younger generations. Yeah.
Yeah, Google it, kids. See, yeah, check it out. It's crazy. You'd be amazed. Um, but yeah, we would make these short animated films, and because Vimeo wasn't a thing, Instagram wasn't a thing, YouTube was barely a thing. We didn't even know about it. We wanted to put our work up and like submit it to festivals because that's what you did back then.
Yeah.
So we put things together. I built a website from my previous coding knowledge, and we kind of formed this like faux collective studio kind of thing
Okay.
that was called Threelegged Legs. And as it so happened, by putting it online and by submitting all this stuff to festivals, we started to get emails from like real professional people who were like, "Hey, we'd like to hire you," and all this kind of stuff. And one of them was an old friend, this guy named Darren Folds, and he basically said, "I'll trade you my entire sneaker collection if you come work with me." And we're like, "This is weird, but okay, let's check this out, I guess." So we met with him, and he basically said, "Look, you guys have an interesting thing going, and I think I can, get you commercial work as a directing team." So I remember like maybe a week before graduation, university, we were pitching on a commercial for Whiskas cat food that was like all animated. It was like live action with animation happening over it and everything. We stayed up all night putting together a pitch. And then after graduating, we literally started a business and then started pitching and directing commercials for the next like 5 or 6 years.
Oh, cool. So how did you then know how to do the pitch? Did you like Google it or took some online classes or what did you do?
Oh, oh no, no, no. We had no idea what we were doing. Like absolutely no clue. We failed a lot.
Yeah,
Like a lot.
failing forward, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so we made a ton of mistakes and we were savvy enough to learn from those mistakes and then try something different next time.
Yeah.
So, a couple years in, we had a system down. Um, but yeah, the first year was rough. We're like, what are we doing wrong? We can't get anything. Um, and the very first job that we got was this branded content for GE, this little animated film called Samurai, which was really fun. We put together a really crazy pitch for it, but I think they were just like, okay, let's give it to these guys. And actually, the very first person, the guy who gave us that job, his name is Greg Gunn, and he runs an amazing branding agency called Gretel in New York now. But at the time, he worked at BBDO New York, and thank you, Greg, still for giving us a chance and letting us do that first job is really cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because the first job is always like so exciting and you're like, yes, we are moving forward and yeah,
Yeah.
all of that and learning so much learning at especially the first year, as you say. And like, how did you do it with the kind of finances or when you were not getting paid jobs yet? Did you have a part-time job or did you save up before or what was the strategy there?
Nope, no strategy there either. We had zero business sense. We were like, cool, we're out of art school. Let's just make some, stuff we like to make, like did not consider, well, will this help the client? Does this make sense financially? Like none of those factors came into play. We were broke. I remember there was three of us in the company and two of us lived together, in a really small apartment. So we were just like, trying to scrape by, like didn't buy anything, didn't care about anything. Like we lived at work, every job or any pitch or whatever, we'd stay up all night to finish it because we had no idea how to manage our time. I mean, we were like mid-20s and stupid, just didn't know what to do, so we had to learn it, and that's what we did. We worked really, really hard and learned a lot of valuable lessons and tried our best to learn from that and apply it the next time. So, it took, like I said, it took some time, but eventually we got some kind of stability and it was okay.
Yeah, because some of these like beginnings are very hard for especially people who don't see maybe how it can be in the future. So how did you kind of manage mentally and the motivation? How kind of what helped you to like continue and like, okay, this will get better and this will be like great? Or was it just like, okay, I really need to do only this and I cannot do anything else?
Yeah, I think it was the latter, unfortunately, because we had no plan. We had no business plan. This is a perfect example of like what not to do. Um, all we did was work really hard. That's the one thing we knew how to do. We're like, okay, if we work very hard and we try to figure these things out, then we'll have to get better at this. And we did. And that took us, that took us through like 5, almost 6 years of being able to like sustain and earn a living, doing this kind of thing, and then split it 3 ways also because there's 3 of us. Ultimately I think it was like, 2008, 2009, when the market kind of crashed here in the States, that started to affect our business. And by 2011, we were like, okay, maybe it's time we kind of rethink this thing. Then we did, and we each kind of went a different direction.
Yeah, because it's difficult to figure out like what to do or which direction, because as creatives we can do more things, right? You can do illustration, you can do animation, you can focus on, I don't know, small businesses, movies, or different areas. So how did you figure out which one do you maybe like, and also which would pay the bills, kind of this decision making, like which direction to work hard towards?
Yeah, no, I mean, Right. I think it's those big moments in time where you have to make those decisions, that kind of really sets the course for the next stage in your life. And
Yeah.
for me at that point, I wanted to keep going in the commercial arts. And so we had a teacher at Otis, and really like a business mentor. And his name's Chris Doe, who I've worked with since 2011. But at that time, I was talking with him, and I was like, hey, look, I enjoy doing this, but I feel like I just got started, and I didn't want to like have my own company anymore. I wanted to work with the studio because I never had a real creative job. We just kind of fell into this thing and then worked in a vacuum, and none of us had any experience working, anywhere else or for a studio. So I was like, I have a lot more to learn, and you're pretty smart. You've been doing this a lot longer. So I'd love to work with you. And I think it was like I freelanced for a little bit for him, and then a few months later there was an opening. And so I joined the team at Blind at the time, and really kind of started to develop my management and creative direction and sort of soft skills, I guess, like speaking to clients, understanding their needs, and then trying to really figure out like, how do I bridge the gap between, the kind of creative things I want to do and the commercial business side of this, and do something that I know will ultimately help someone too. Yeah. That took years. That took years and years to kind of like be confident in and start to understand and figure out about both myself and how to work like in a proper company, as a team.
Yeah, because it's a little bit different as well, depending how big is the team or what type of task, what type of clients you have. So yeah, for sure. And so which were kind of the biggest turning points from that moment you mentioned when you started learning within the company and where you are now, like these big steps and learning from them?
Yeah. Well, let me think. Well, I guess so. Where I'm at now is like, long story short, everyone who works at, however you want to phrase it, Blind, the agency with Chris, now also works for the Future, which is a completely different business model. It's basically like a teaching company. We're all sort of like trying to learn and teach at the same time, and really fill the gap between the business education that none of us got when we went to art school, and try to kind of share our experience in the industry doing that, and then also like, okay, here's how you do it better, and help other people along their kind of creative journey. So that's where I'm at now. And then also I do illustration on the side, like with my own clients.
Yeah.
I do too much, I think. Now that I'm like saying it out loud, I'm like, why do I do this? So those are the two things I balance. So by day, like teacher, working for the Future, and then by morning, because I don't stay up that late, I do a good amount of illustration work, for myself and for clients. But I think the big gap getting like from where I left off at Blind to here was really like, okay, I entered into my 30s. I now had a real job, let's call it, working for someone. I have a salary, and I'm like, okay, what is this weird life stability? Because I worked at a movie theater and a call center. Those are the only like real jobs I ever had. Everything else, I was like, I'm gonna figure out how to do my own thing and get paid for it. So I was maturing. And now I had this newfound stability. So I'm like, I have all this time and I have sort of the means to do things. So how do I want to spend that time? And what do I want to do with that? And, I got married, and so I'm like, okay, I'm an adult. I have a relationship. There's a dog.
Now you're the adult, yeah.
Yeah. So it's really like, the big milestones, and it sounds cliche, but it's growing up. It's entering adulthood, and still wanting to hold on to that like creative spark, that fire that's always inside me. And I can't just stay up all night and like do whatever I want, because I'll pay for it the next day in a number of ways.
The
So
brain
what
is
I ended up
slower
doing,
and everything. Yeah.
oh yeah, no, it like I'm
Yeah.
really like paralyzed if I don't get,
Yeah.
more than like 7.5 hours of sleep.
That
It
happens to
like
me as
really
well.
affects
Yeah.
me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I
Um,
work too much too late, then you are next day writing an email to client, and you're like writing and like, what did I want to say?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll like read a book and I'll reread the same sentence like 4 times. I'm like, this is not, no. Um, so I think with all that sort of like happening, over time, of course, not like overnight. Um, I realized, I really enjoy drawing. That's like if I didn't have to worry or do anything, I think I would just do that because it's so much fun and it brings me so much joy. And as it so happened, that same year, when I started to realize that, that's when Apple released the iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil. And I was like, that's cool. And I tried it in the store. I was like, man, that would be fun, but I don't like how it feels. And then I left it. Um, and then someone showed me Procreate. I think like we had a freelancer come in and they were using that. I was like, what is this? And they let me borrow it for the day. And I was just like doodling and stuff. I don't think I did any work that day. I was just like sketching and doodling and stuff. And I was like, oh, wow, this is like, I felt like I was like 7 years old again, laying prone on the floor with like my sketchbook and some like pencils, like designing video game levels or characters and stuff. I was like, it brought back all those same feelings of youth and creativity and freedom and enjoyment. And I was like, this is something I need to, this is it. I think this was the sort of creative thing I can do as an adult in my spare time that can kind of satisfy me, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah. Because then if we kind of like to do the illustrations, right, and like visuals, and when you tried Procreate or just drawing on an iPad, did you have already in mind like, I would like to do this like also for a client work, or was it more like, I will build a portfolio, or just like having fun with it and not creating with any purpose, like this will be illustration for, I don't know, like a baker, or you have these dog walker illustrations, right, and these type of things.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The latter part of that you mentioned,
Yeah.
I was like, I hadn't drawn in years, or at least I hadn't spent real time drawing. I kind of doodle all the time, or if I'm giving direction, I'm like, oh, it's like this. But after getting an iPad and the pencil and Procreate, I just found myself drawing out of joy and convenience because I could sit on my couch.
Yeah.
We could watch The Office after dinner, and I could draw like the whole time. And I didn't have to go and sit down in front of a computer again and stuff. I was like, this is so easy and so fluid and natural.
Yeah.
So I had no purpose. I think it was just like all this like built up after years and years of not doing it. So I was like, oh, I have all these, I just want to do these things and learn and grow. And it was something new to learn, connected to something I have always done that made me really happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I first started doing it, I was doing it purely for the thrill, for the joy,
Yeah.
because I wanted to. And that was it. Yeah.
And then now you mentioned you work also for some clients with your illustrations, right? So how do they find you, or do you have an agent?
Yeah. So I do occasionally work for clients. I'm because I have a full-time like job at the future. I kind of am picky about that kind of thing right
Because you
now, at
have only
least.
like a weekend and some parts of the week, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very nice place to be because I'm like, no. um, but the way all this like I started doing client work, the way that happened was I want to say it was after the dog walker illustrations, and that was just a thing I did for fun. I just thought it was fun to draw my own dog and my wife like walking it, and I'm like, you
Yeah.
guys look funny.
They are super
So,
cool, the illustrations, I have to say. I was like, oh, they are so awesome.
oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I definitely have a thing for dogs.
I guess me
And
too, yeah.
yeah, and I think I put those out, and for some reason, like people responded well to that stuff, and then I don't know how it happened, but I just would get emails. People like, hey, can you help me with this? Or we need an illustration for that. Or can you make a little animation for this? And I was like really scared because I'm like, I don't do this. What am I doing? But I just decided, I'm like, I don't know how long this is going to take. I'm not sure how to do this because I just got back into this, but okay, sure. Let's try things. So I did a couple of really bigger long-term illustration and like kind of brief animation projects for about 6 months. And I was like, wow, that was really fun. I made some new friends. I got to learn and grow a lot, and they paid me to do that. That is delightful. I could do that. And it didn't take away too much time from my life, because I'm doing it on my couch, I could still hang out. So that's kind of how it's been. And that was about a year ago, actually. So I have not done this very long. And since then, I picked up some new clients here and there, but 100% of that has been them emailing me. I've done zero outreach because I do want to be careful and respect, I guess, my free time. And that's where I'm in kind of like a unique position, I think, because having a full-time job and working with the future affords me the ability to turn a lot of those things down if I don't have time, or I'm like, it's not the right fit for me, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, definitely. Because then you can balance both, and then you can still have time to create stuff just for fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm like, the next month, I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just gonna, like, I'm reworking on my website right now. So I'm like, I'm just gonna focus on that, and I get to make all the cool little illustrations for my website and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's a fun piece that I can share later and talk about the whole process making. So I'm actually starting to use my sort of illustration hobby, I guess you could call it, as fuel for more like creative education for the future also.
Okay.
So yeah, kind of works out.
Yeah. So, and what type of classes or what skills do you teach personally?
Yeah. I'm right now I'm working on a color theory course, you might call it. But basically it's kind of like a crash course in color with practical contemporary applications. So it's like, here's what you need to know about color. You probably remember some of this from second grade, but here's how it works in your like day-to-day work, whether you're a graphic designer or an illustrator, or even like animating. Like, here's how to think about color in a meaningful way. That's not just like theory stuff that you're like, what do I do with this? So I'm working on that right now. I'm hoping, I don't know when this podcast airs, but I'm hoping to get that done before the end of the year, which is 2018 currently. But beyond that, I've made a handful of videos for the future about color, about illustration, about my process for coming up with ideas, and how to like take weird things that just bounce around in your head and kind of like grab one and be like, okay, is this any good? And then what do I do with it now, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, especially like color, I'm also super obsessed with color and then like color theory. And I took all the classes which were like possible in the past. Like, okay, I want to learn from different people because then you just get different approaches. And I also started to create the color and light course, and I took a little bit different angle. So what I created is more about like storytelling with color and light, how it affects your mood, and how it's actually visible also in the real life, and how you can transform it into your artworks. So that's like my online course with color, but like more
Awesome.
there is in the world is like super cool. Yeah.
Wait, what is the name of your course, and where can
It's
I
color
find it?
and light and storytelling with color and light. So I have it on Skillshare, I have it on artsideoflife.com, so on my platform, and also I put it on Udemy. So that's one of the places which I'm balancing now with courses. And I just
Wow,
released
that's cool.
another one, which is how to make money with art. So I'm like going through different ways how you can be like, of course, employed, freelance, then you can do like Etsy shop, then AdSense and these type of things. So kind of collected the knowledge over the years of different sources of income.
Yeah, very cool.
So
I think you're doing it right, like as commercial artists, so to speak,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
or just creative professionals, whatever
Yeah.
term you want to use.
Yeah, it's hard to find the
Um,
term, right? Yeah.
yeah, I think that the idea of like having different revenue streams
Mm-hmm,
is
mm-hmm.
is super important, and that's not necessarily something that's talked about anywhere, but I think especially in the creative industry because
Yeah.
there's such a variety of skills and things, and it's constantly, you need to kind of not keep up. That's not the right way to put it, but you need to
Improve.
be always learning.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that kind of sharing of knowledge and passing it around, and like you said, you could take 5 different courses about color, and you would get 5 related but very different approaches,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
would make you, in theory, 5 times better,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but I mean, it's the thing. Like, you can, of course, kind of learn by yourself, and but if you can get help from someone else who's been there already, then you just progress faster. So
Yeah.
it's so great to learn from other people, and I'm like very big fan of like online platforms because like as I was growing up in Europe, then we don't have the same schools maybe as in US, or of course like there are like good
Mm.
schools everywhere, but maybe you would like to go somewhere and you don't have that option. But now with the current world of online platforms, it's like super nice because you can just learn from whoever you want. And yeah, I mean, everyone has something to share. So I think everyone should teach something.
I agree. Yeah, we all have something to teach, and
Yeah,
we all obviously can learn a lot more.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm
definitely.
with you.
Good, awesome. So yeah, so guys, can you can get let us know in the comments on the on YouTube or also like in the messages what would you like to see as a new courses, and yeah, if you are taking some online courses now, so I would love to know. And also going back to your story, I would like to know also how you developed your skills. What was maybe your main thing? Like, did you have some kind of moment like, aha, this helps me a lot to develop my skills?
Um, I think, yeah, definitely. I mean, I try to read a lot. I don't read a lot, but I try to read a lot. Um,
Audiobooks. You can always do that.
yeah, you know what? I've tried. I signed up for the free
Hmm.
audible.com trial, and
Yeah.
I'm like I'm dumb. I don't know. I can't like audiobooks. I don't retain any of that information. Even like on a like a Kindle or something, for some
Yeah.
reason that's hard for me.
Hmm.
But if I have like just
Like the
a
physical book.
regular old this
Yeah.
book.
Oh,
Um
I love that book. Actually, you just showed.
oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's okay, here. It's
Show
Show
your
Your
work.
Work by Austin Kleon. Fantastic book.
It's a very good
If
book. Agree.
everyone should read that book. It will also take you like 30 minutes. It's very easy, but it is dense, full of
Yeah.
useful and valuable information.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, in terms of like skill development, I think it's funny on the kind of like soft skill side
Hmm.
of managerial
Yeah.
skills. I've read a lot of books and
Hmm.
I do a lot of work on that
Yeah.
to try to kind of be the best that I possibly can be. And on the technical, creative stuff, and like,
Hmm.
especially illustration and drawing, I think it's just practice. And as soon as you asked me that question, I started thinking, I'm like, I need to do more to develop. I've taken a handful of like, Skillshare courses and things
Hmm.
like that looked appealing,
Yeah.
but I do think I actually need to make more time for that because I've read a lot of books on color and sort of like concept development and things like
Hmm.
that. But other than just kind of drawing the way that I draw, I have not spent a lot of time developing the hard skills for illustration,
Yeah.
which that's probably my weakness right now, I think.
Well, I think, as you said, it's like a balance because some people are on the opposite spectrum, that they are like really practicing like years, but then it's not with the purpose. Like, I am learning
Mm,
this right now. So, kind of to do both, because if you're drawing over the same thing, you don't really improve. So, it's kind of, yeah. But the thing as well, like drawing more, I also want to do that. So, like, as a first
yeah.
thing in the morning, just like doing the miracle morning thing, when you like
Oh,
meditate a
right.
little bit and then you write into your journal and then you draw. So that's a very nice habit.
Is that from the Artist's Way? So
No,
that's
this was called. There was one book, the Miracle Morning, and
yeah.
he was
Okay.
talking about kind of like this business practice that you should not well business, but I mean you should spend time with yourself in the morning before you give the time to others. So
Mm.
like 5 minutes of journaling, 5 minutes of exercise, 5 minutes of the meditation or whatever you kind of like prefer doing,
Mm.
and that kind of puts you in the mood like, okay, this day will be like a productive day and I can do anything, and then you can implement drawing in it because that's like for you.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, so
That's cool.
so I like
I'm
that
gonna check
approach.
that out.
Yeah. So that's a good
I
book as well.
I love that. That's interesting. I used to do that actually. I would get up and I would have coffee and then just kind of like write thoughts on paper with no real like I
Yeah,
wouldn't call it a journal even. I would just say
yeah,
it's like mental vomit where I'm just like kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah,
I would do that for like 20 minutes, you know, and
yeah.
then for some reason that helped me just clear my mind for the day. Um,
Exactly. It's like not
but
to
I like the
keep
idea
the
of like
to-do list oh yeah, like if you do like more things at the same
mhm.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's great.
Yeah, because I also read about the thing that like how to be more positive and have the good outlook on life when you are like writing down what you are grateful for. Because even if it
Mm.
doesn't have to be something super epic, you can just say like, oh, I'm super happy about my warm shower in the morning, or like healthy breakfast, or something like that, and then you already kind of set yourself to be like, okay, this is actually not bad. I'm good.
Yeah, it kind of makes you appreciate what you do
Yeah.
have and
Yeah, like the
those
small
things.
things. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. That's important. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so when you are like actually practicing, do you have like favorite art tools? So, like we talked about the iPad, and I guess you also work with Illustrator and maybe After Effects and these type of things. So, do you have like list of tools like I cannot live without them?
I do. Yeah, I have my favorite things. So let's see. I'll break it down into like digital and analog. So digital, it's pretty simple. iPad, Apple Pencil, Procreate. That is my favorite thing to do. I've done entire client projects just using that and nothing else.
Yes.
It's worked really well, and it is just a wonderful experience. And then, yeah, beyond that, I think, you know, I use the Adobe suite. So Photoshop, Illustrator, and then After Effects if I'm doing any animation. And that's kind of it. I try to keep it really simple. I don't like, I used to do like 3D character animation and complex like rigging and stuff like that. And I
It's
love
already
that. I
making me
appreciate that
like
so
stressed,
much,
like
but
for 3D.
that's how I feel about it. Yeah. But I think, you know, after kind of retreating from that a bit and bringing it back to the basics of drawing, that's where like I found my kind of sweet spot. But you know what? I'm very curious about Cinema 4D and kind of using that as a way to like augment, I guess, drawing or with drawing. So that's something that's like off screen. It's like, hey, cinema. I'm like,
It's
oh,
okay.
not right now. I don't have time. Um, and then analog tools, I keep it pretty simple. I'm like looking to my left here. I have, I just use like a little flimsy, cheap sketchbook,
Yeah.
like cheap, don't care what it is at all, day to day. And then, what's really weird is I only draw in pen. I don't
Okay.
like ever do pencils, and it's just more comfortable for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm forced to commit to something.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Like you have to commit to the lines, and it's like, okay, I cannot erase.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, over time, you get more confidence in your line work, you know,
Yeah.
and things like that. But I'll like be all sketchy with it too, and then like, okay, you know, but that's just my approach. And then if I do most things I do are digital, but if I do animate, if I do draw anything in like analog with color, I love these things, which are like
Oh
the
yeah.
like Posca, little like Posca paint marker things. These are super fun to use. It's literally like painting with a pen, you know, because you get that same really vibrant, bright, saturated color that you want. And you know, it's totally opaque. But if you suck at painting like I do, you can just have a cool little like marker nib to help guide you. So
Yeah, because they sound very cool. I tried like one or two colors just to try it out, but I definitely want to get more into that because right now I'm also using more just Copic markers to
mm,
doodle with them, just to commit to like bigger shapes, just to like block the small characters and these type of things. But yeah, they are better at blending, not as like these markers. So I want to try them as well. There are so
yeah,
many
yeah.
different tools you can use.
They're a little pricey,
Yeah.
if I'm being honest, but they're very nice. They're very good. So even just like if you want to do black and white art or like black, white, and then like one color, you could just get a black marker and one other color,
Yeah.
and it looks really nice on the paper, and you don't have to like spend $1 million to get there.
Yeah, because I think like Copic markers are not cheap either. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
the same thing. But yeah, then it also helps if you have like a good paper, I guess, with especially with markers, so they don't bleed. With these pesca, how do you pronounce them? Pesca markers, I
I
guess.
I say Posca. I
Posca?
don't
Okay,
know.
I
I
don't
have
know.
no idea.
Anyway,
Don't
these
quote me on
ones.
that.
So yeah, because then you don't have to have like a specific paper for them, right?
No, I
I
mean
think.
it's paint, so
Yeah.
you want something that's thick enough. I think I use Bristol board most of the time, cold
Okay.
press board.
Yeah.
It should be fine.
It should be good. Yeah. So I can list all these tools in the description so people can check it out because sometimes we're like, oh, I want to try this or I want to try that. But with digital tools, you don't have to have the mess and then you can just draw
I
in a
know.
tram or in a park or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the best. It really like I know I'm just like program, but it's really convenient.
Yeah. And
And it got me to draw more. So.
have you tried also Fresco? What is it? Yeah, Fresco. Adobe Fresco.
Oh no,
The
yeah,
the
that's
new thing,
Adobe's
yeah.
new app, right?
Yeah, because
Not
like
yet.
the you have the vector brushes there, and
Oh.
so you can actually do the characters right there, and then you can export it somewhere else. And I tried the watercolor brushes, and they are pretty amazing because I do sometimes workshops with like locally people here. They want to do watercolors, but I can
Mhm.
sketch it there on tablet and see the concept, and then I can like mix the colors for the local actually the real workshop. So
Mhm.
yeah, it looks super realistic.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I've been meaning to try that.
Yeah. I'm sure you will like it because when you're trying different tools and everything, then yeah. But still, Procreate it's great. So it's not like a replacement, I would say, but both are like have pros and cons, I guess.
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
Ah, cool. And
Very
if
cool.
you like think about the future projects, what would you like to work on, or do you have some like dream project? You're just like, I want to accomplish this in the future, like a book or a movie
Mm.
or something super special.
Um, yeah, okay, so two things come to mind that I've always kind of wanted to do that are consistent. So one is yeah, making an illustrated book. I don't super vague, so I'm just gonna riff right here, right now, but it could be I don't think graphic novel is the right term because I don't have that kind of I don't know, I don't have that kind of sense, but some sort of like yeah, like illustration based book that tells a story. I think that would be so much fun to do. And the other thing which I've had some success in is I really love to create an animated show and do one season.
Yeah.
And I've pitched and sold a show to Nickelodeon and also did a short for Disney. That was sort of like a pitch to be like, hey, you want to make this show? Um, neither came to fruition because it's a very difficult road to go down.
Yeah.
Um, but it was pretty exciting and interesting to get a taste of what that is like and all the incredible time and effort that goes into that. So I don't know how many more times I'm going to do that, but it's still something I'm very interested in that I think would be a lot of fun to do.
Yeah. Would that be the same story, or do you want to develop a new story?
Um, hmm, I don't know. Probably a new story, just but I think I'd have to come up with the story and the premise first, and then sort of decide, well, what should this be and what should it look like?
Oh, cool. I mean, it sounds super cool. Like when you have more animations and like small stories, that it's just, yeah, super inspirational because then everyone has a like different view to the world, right? So you just tell
Hmm.
the story differently. And yeah, I would love to see that. So yeah, if you want to share a little bit of that, what you pitched, or it's like secret, I guess.
No, no, not at all. I have yeah, there's a the Disney short is on YouTube. I can send you a link
Oh,
to all this
perfect.
stuff.
So we
But
can
more than
put
happy
them.
to share this.
Yeah. So how was the experience for you to create this story? Did you work with someone else, or did you work it by yourself? Work it? Did you work on it by yourself?
Yeah, no, I have a writing partner. His name's Reza, and he was actually one of my old business partners from the very first like failed studio thing we did.
Yeah.
So the short film for Disney, which was our pitch,
Yeah.
we developed that together, and we're both like I don't know drawers and animators, so we're not writers. That's for sure.
Oh, that's
Um,
difficult. Yeah.
and so we had to figure out like how do we write? How does that work? Because we tried to sit down and write a script, and it just didn't work. We're like, this doesn't make sense to us. Um, so we found that actually like doing little tiny like on post-its like this size sketches, we would like just really rough something out, and then we'd hold it up and like voice the character dialogue, be like, okay, well what if she says da 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 or something, and be like, yeah, that's cool, and then we'd stick it against a wall, and then we'd take photos of all those on our iPhone and then put them in Premiere on a timeline. And that, so we made this like really, really rough animatic with our own voices and like little post-it photos and stuff. And that was how we were able to write a story that made sense for us, which totally weird and backwards, I think, but it seemed to work for us as non-writers.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
because I
but we
mean, it
worked on that
sounds
together.
great. Oh, yeah, because like when you imagine like how you put it together and you already have something like rough without actually spending time like animating frame by frame, and yeah, so
Oh
that's super
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, cool, cool. So yeah, so I mean, I'm looking forward to see more of your stories then in the future and the illustrations. So if, before we finish, maybe you can share like last tip for you as a young self, kind of like, I wish I knew this, the classic question, like what you learn along the way.
Oh, okay. So like, what would I tell me if
Yeah,
I were just starting out?
yeah.
Hmm. I think if I could offer any one bit of advice to younger Greg or anyone like younger Greg out there, it would be to work hard and be nice, and also do not take for granted the privilege you have of doing what you're doing, and spend some time, read some books, give some thought toward the business side of the creative industry, um, because you have talent, you have value, and if you work hard, you will get there. Um, but it's very important to know how to do business with people, and how to comfortably talk about money and schedule and time and all that stuff. It is equally as important as being a good artist.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I totally agree because we need to balance both. It's at the end, it's creative business, so we are
Yes.
entrepreneurs if you are working with clients. So yeah, definitely. So yeah, so thank you so much for being here. It was super nice.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Eva. I'm thrilled and quite flattered to be part of this. Just happy to be here chatting with you.
Oh, thank you so much, and I'm super happy for also everyone who was listening today or watching on YouTube. So hope you guys are inspired. You can do this. So really, thank you, and thanks everyone who was watching and listening. And see you guys in the next episode. Bye.